Hey, how you doing? Come on in, sit for a spell. At the time I'm recording this, it is just after midnight on December 4th, leading up to that full super moon in Gemini. It's the brightest one of the year, and when I dropped into this energy, I heard it is the kinetic motion in the ocean. And I think that perfectly captures the whole vibe right now. We do have another grand water trine initiated with this full moon coming in. Comes in just after 6. That wanted to turn over. Oh, yes. Wanted to come in right at this point here. We have the knees, okay? The knees, and on the other side we have the robot riding a gorilla. Okay, so yeah, we're moving out of autopilot right now. This is quite a rebellious full moon. It's going to kick off a rebellious cycle, and I'll tell you why. We are moving into the Sagittarian energy. Yes, happy rebirthday to all the Sagittarians out there. You're feeling the advent of change. There's a lot shifting in your life. You all have been moving through the fives, man. You've been moving through the 5 of Wands, those arguments, those dramas, those soap operas in your life. At times, it's been a bit of a telenovela, but you've also been able to manage to pull your jovial spirit to the forefront, have a little banter and play with it, a little devil-may-care attitude as well. You've dealt with your times of lack and loss with the 5 of Pentacles. You have dealt with the disappointments of the past with the 5 of Cups and opportunities that have been spilled. You may not realize you got another opportunity coming your way, but there is another opportunity coming your way. It's something coming from an unexpected place. It's something that is coming out of the ether in a very liberating way. Something that changes up the whole game. And of course, you've dealt with the 5 of Swords. You've dealt with your fair share of betrayal. But there's something that's happening with this full moon, and this is coming in for all of you, not just Sagittarians. It's for all of us that are moving through this energy. And what's happening is we're not feeling divided anymore within ourselves, held back by our fears. And some of those fears are things that have been haunting us for many lifetimes. They're things that have been inherited generationally. We didn't question them. It was just part of the programming. We took it on, we downloaded it, and now we're casting it off. We're being born anew, and that puts us in a position where we're in totally unfamiliar territory. And at first, it can be a little frightening, but very soon you're going to start to see that star shining in that great sea of black, and you're going to start to realize that maybe this is where the tide turns. And the more you step forward, the more all of those former fears start to fall away. And also where your path has been divided from a very key character, suddenly you're united. You find yourselves at the same place at the same time, aligning perfectly on the appropriate timeline. And it brings a little lightness, it brings a little levity, it brings a little of a floating sensation in your consciousness, something that takes you out of all the dullness, something that takes you out of that rut you've dug for yourself that was starting to look quite similar to the dimensions of a grave. And this is what turns everything around. It turns your frown upside down. Also, where there used to be anger, where there used to be arguments, where there used to be harsh words firing off out of those places of fear inside, out of self-protection, self-preservation, you're going to start to seal the thing. See that you're going to start to seal. You're going to start to seal the deal, maybe. I don't know, but you're going to start to see that there's actually reason to smile. Let's see what's coming in here. Next 72 hours. I'll bring in more around this full moon lunar cycle. But the energy is quite amplified right now, and there's a lot of action going down in Scorpio. Mercury's direct. Thank goodness it's not retrograde anymore, but we still have to contend to the post shadow until mid-month. And it just so happens to be in Scorpio. So there's a lot that's communicating to us subterraneanly. And we have to remember the way that scorpions are. Scorpions pick up the vibration of everything before it arrives on the scene. So this is when you can feel the energy mounting, and you can feel the power of it, and you can feel how transformational it is. But if you haven't really been doing the work, if you've been sweeping things under the rug, if you have unconscious parts of yourself that you haven't brought up into the light, then you can mistake the energy for something that should be feared, and really you're meant to put that behind you. You have to allow things to show you what they are instead of responding out of knee-jerk reactions. Also try to give other people grace who are responding out of knee-jerk reactions because they feel the activation of this energy. They can't help it. Everybody's here just wanting to get free. That's what happens when you got Black Moon Lilith hanging out in Scorpio too. And we had Venus was in Scorpio, moved into Sagittarius. So you see some people feel like they're just starting to get back to their hearts. They're just starting to figure out what's important to their hearts. They're just starting to tap into what's worth fighting for. And so that can make them feel, you know, wild, feral, rebellious, activated. And that they need to get where they need to go at any cost, you know? Yeah, it's a bit like giving birth to a skull, you know? But this time, it's not just any skull. It's the skull of rebirth. And when we're rebirthing ourselves, it can take a lot out of us. Some of you may be feeling a need to rest more. You don't understand what's going on. You feel like you haven't been doing anything more than you've been doing at any other point in recent months. But the reality is there's more of a kinetic load right now. You're more sensitive right now. 7:33 on the clock. There's a lot of energy coming in. There's a lot you're picking up you weren't feeling before. There's a lot operating beneath the surface. There's a lot operating beneath the surface. And some of it is stuff that you've been meant to look at. Some of it is treasure. And you've been burying the best parts of yourself, and you need to dig them back up. Some of you actually are more afraid of really stepping into your empowerment than you are about anything that goes bump in the night. A lot of times people have more difficulty with that. They have difficulty with being seen. They do. They feel very challenged to step into their gifts, to share what they have to bring forward in the world. Because a lot of times it can feel like those are treasures, you know? And maybe at some point in time we had somebody shame those parts of ourselves, or tell us that we had no right to be all that, or required that we diminish ourselves in some way. And so we learned that, you know, to share those parts of ourselves, there's something threatening about that. There's something that can throw us into a downward spiral. There's something that can create judgment or can create some kind of loss in our life. If we allow ourselves to really embody our gifts, if we allow ourselves to step into all we're called to be, right? And so we bury those parts of ourselves, and now you're being charged with digging those parts of you back up. Because until you do, those parts of you are going to haunt you. They're going to haunt you. You're never going to feel complete. You're always going to feel a bit lost. You're going to feel like you don't have the answers. You're going to feel held back. You may project that on other people. You may project that on outside circumstances. You may find yourself being really short with other people. You may find yourself being resentful because you see other people stepping into these places of empowerment. You may be in this process, and you may see other people reflecting this to you. They're taking out their stuff on you. They're frustrated with you because you've been doing this work. You've been willing to look at your stuff. You've been willing to look at the ways you held yourself back. You're not willing to do that anymore. You're digging it all up. You're looking at the roots of it. How did it get there? And you're not spending a lot of time like blaming how those particular belief systems got put in place or those insecurities got hardwired into your biology. What you're doing is owning it and unraveling it and doing the work. And as you do, you're starting to come into your inner authority. And as you do, you're releasing the ghosts of regret. You're releasing the ghosts of what's haunted you. But as you do this, it's going to have people reflecting and projecting their fears upon you. Because now you're the enemy. Because you're mirroring some part of them back to them. Some part of them that they have yet to have the courage to uproot. But see, I see that in these challenging connections and confrontations and things that can come about, there's transformation for two here. There's transformation for two here. There's some kind of alignment coming about between you and another, where at one point you were divided. At one point, it felt like your journey had come to an end, full stop. That something had been completely transformed. And ever since then, there's been sort of this gap, a gap in understanding, a gap in activity, a gap in connection, communication, knowing which way to go, the right way to proceed, the right way to move forward. And that's what's going to start to become very clear right now. I mean, somebody is exploring their options right now. And they're looking back at old conversations. They're looking back at the story, the way things went. And then actually having their memory come back on board and going, well, gee, wait a minute. Maybe it wasn't quite that. And they're exploring their options and they feel like they're really effing because they're feeling the heat and the weight of their decisions and not knowing what the best choice is. And usually when you're in that place where, you know, no option feels quite right, sometimes the option is just to sit in the heat. Sit in the discomfort. You know, nobody ever wants to do that, but that is the transforming force. Sit with what makes you uncomfortable. Ask yourself, why is it making me feel so uncomfortable? What is it bringing up in me? And tune into the motion of the energy. Where is it stirring in your body? You know, what's it connected to? What do you feel when you really drop into it? And in order to see what you need to see, rather than just seeing just a piece of the picture, but the whole picture, you got to let down your defenses here. This is that Aries and Chiron energy. You got to remember, you know, Chiron has been in retrograde. So there's a lot of stuff that's come up, a lot of wounding. It's the deepest wound of the self. And it can have people on the defense where they automatically assume that everything is coming at them when really it's just stuff coming up within them that they haven't articulated, that they haven't allowed themselves to really look at in terms of how much it's wounded. You know, the more defensive somebody is, the more the wounding, the more there's something there that hurts, you know. And we have to remember that anytime we're encountering defensiveness within ourselves or within others, to just bring in a little bit more water. When you're encountering fire in a person, you know, somebody coming through with a lot of heat, a lot of intensity, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, you know, you don't greet fire with fire. That makes for an explosive situation. Instead, you bring in the water. You bring in the earth, you know. You nurture, you ground out the energy, you soften the sharp edges, all right? Likewise, you know, If somebody's fire's gone low, if they're feeling dull and listless, you gotta breathe a little life into them, man. Lift the energy. Bring in the ether, bring in the air, right? If somebody has gotten too sentimental, melancholy, you know, you might need to bring your fire forward, you know? Light them up. Give them a pep talk, you know? This could be yourself. This could be talking to parts of yourself. If you start to look at things more elementally rather than getting attached to like your ideas about things, you'll be able to balance out situations a lot easier. It's amazing how quickly you can alchemize very challenging situations if you stop going over the story you've created around the experience in your head, or you've taken on the projections of what's coming at you, and instead you just look at what element is showing up right now. What element is showing up right now? What's come in here and grabbed a hold of my heart to this extent where it's making me lose my sense of heart and I feel like I'm getting all activated here? That's where the mana is, you know? This is where the feral nature wakes up. You got to go toward that thing you fear, even though it feels a little bit awkward to lean into that. If you can just sit for a minute and notice the places inside of yourself where you feel like rising to the call of provocation, or where you do feel activated by something somebody says, and you notice you're spinning it through like your own narrative, but maybe it's not really what's going on there. And if you can have a little bit of courage to look into those spaces where you are afraid to look, you know, and push it a little bit more. Ask yourself, what is this coming up in me? Instead of like looking at the other person. It may be a little awkward, but that's also where, you know, all the growth is. All the stimulus is, you know. All right, let's get some more details here. So something's taken our hearts. Something's taken our hearts, something's grabbed a hold of our hearts, something matters. Because it matters, there's a lot of fear around it. There's a lot of fear around it. Fear can become paralyzing, but if you can also recognize the fertility in fear, because often everything you want is on the other side of fear, that's when you can start to turn the energy around. Become curious about your fear. Don't worry, it's just the great unmasking. You're having your true identity revealed to you, but first the role you've been playing needs to come to an end. It's time for the final bow, because that energy has been taking more out of you than you realize. It takes so much energy to wear a false face. It takes so much energy to live up to others' expectations than truly being empowered in who you are. And it's not about taking on other people's visions of who you should be and what your life's about, but it's about cleansing all of that away so your own sight can become clear. It's having the courage to sacrifice your old view of things to become awakened to a little bit of a view into the numinous mystery. There is something you're peering into. Much as Odin offered up his eye to that deepest well, there's something that you are peering into here that cleanses the way that you used to see yourself, that you used to see others, that you used to see possibilities for yourself in your life. It does rouse fear, but it also has you going all the way into the deep end with the wet pants here. This is not waiting. This is diving all the way in, and it will be a very sensory experience. It's going to be kinetic. So do expect over the next 72 hours that you're going to have a lot of impressions. There's going to be a lot of sensations coming up in your body. And don't be so quick to decipher what they mean. Instead, be curious about the sensations and dive into them a little bit. Notice where those feelings are stirring in your body. Don't try to define it. Just sit with it, meditate on it, hold space for it. See what kind of visions pop up in your head when you just lean into the energy without telling yourself what it is or what it's connected to. Even if it was prompted by an interaction with another or something you experienced when you were out and about that dinged you or got you riled up or whatever. Don't attach a story around it where you start pointing fingers and labeling what it's about. Just notice where it landed in your body. Sit with it. And just see what's there. Close your eyes. And just see what's there. Just sit with it. Sit with what's uncomfortable. It's the first step in getting free. I'm telling you, 2033. It'll give you a clarity of vision that will help you make your way through the crossroads. This is how we start getting free. Most people think it requires like some dramatic action to be taken. Most of the time, no. It's just about being conscious with what you're feeling and sitting with it. And not trying to alter it and not trying to shame yourself for what you feel and not attaching a story to it about so-and-so did this to me or even attaching any labels to yourself because of what you feel. It's just encountering the energy and letting it show you what it's here to teach you. This is how you'll find the way through. Let me do a cut of the deck here. We have, yes. I mean, it really is time to stop getting hung up here like a martyr because we're afraid to wake up the most magical parts of ourselves because we fear repercussions. We fear being outcasts. We fear people not getting who we are. We feel, who am I to be such a magical creature? And I say, who are you not to be? So this is about letting yourself down here. You don't need to get hung up here. The journey wants to begin. And there may be another joining you on this journey. Somebody who also is quite magical, just like you. And they want to share in this adventure with you. But you'll never know that. You'll never connect with that person, or you'll never connect with that magical path. It could be a path that wants to come into alignment with you. You'll never be able to experience that if you keep hiding these parts of yourself. I really feel like this is what is stirring this season. It's like all of your hidden gifts and all of those wild, untamed parts of yourself that are just so ripe with creativity and enthusiasm. It's like all the parts of you that are just teeming with life is what is coming up to the surface here. But people have been so numbed out and so cut off for so long that they feel the amplitude of that energy rising and it makes them nervous. They brace themselves, and embracing themselves, they start to emit a very different kind of energy signature that starts drawing all kinds of gridlock their way. So the more that you can just really sink into what you feel, even if it feels really activating. And for those of you who do drop in and you do a lot of meditation, or you do a lot of journeying work or visionary work, you do a lot of this kind of exploration of the ethers through your consciousness, okay? And you've been doing this, you'll notice that the energies coming in recently, they're getting bigger, you know, they're getting a momentum coming in with them. And at some points you may feel like, whoo, that's a big energy. But even with that, the more you can get grounded in, you know, you got to hunker down to ride this wave. You do. You got to make sure you're really grounded, you know, make sure you're getting good sleep, making sure that you give yourself extra sleep when you need it, because it's a lot of energy to run. Make sure you're getting out, you're connecting with nature. Make sure you're sending a grounding cord down. Make sure you're feeding yourself nourishing food. Get enough protein, you know, make sure that you're giving yourself that grounding, that solidity, drinking your water, all this stuff, the basics, man, the bare bones basics. And the more you can just sink into it, okay, as the energy comes in, instead of trying to decipher it, figure it out, or the more that you can be curious about, well, what did you mean when you said that? Instead of just automatically assuming, you know, the more that you can notice your reactiveness, and then you can, you know, kind of just sit with the discomfort of that and just hold space. The more that you're funneling in and you can just hold space, right, without labeling it. That's what's going to be the transforming factor here. Because the more that you don't try to put parameters around this, the more it will move you into greater expansion. The more you'll be able to flow with this energy, because it's not your usual flow. And life is not going to go, you know, forward from this moment in the way you've been accustomed to. Everything is going to continue to morph and change, right? Because we are reclaiming this buried treasure. Because until we do, these parts of us will haunt us. And we will cast that spirit onto other people. We will cast that spirit onto anything other than what it truly is. It's our spirit. It's our soul asking for another shot at this thing called life, to not be hiding out, kept in the dark, but allowed the expansion and room to maneuver a little bit to really show us what life is meant to be here. All right. So yeah, you got to be all the way in though. This energy does require us to be all the way in. There's no way you can be like halfway in with this energy rolling out here. Let me go ahead and bring in the Glow in the Dark Tarot. Bottom of the deck. You see what I'm saying here? This is the justice coming in. It is the rebirth of Venus, all right? How does justice stay in balance? By letting the shadows fall behind. The shadows fall behind. Face the sun. Face that life-giving source that's shining for you, that thing that you can feel the life stirring in you. Give that your focus, okay? Let the shadows fall away. This is when we're starting to move into the rebirth of Venus energy. It is going to be quickening in Sagittarius season. There is something coming in to balance what has felt like an injustice for you, what has felt like an inequity. Things are being balanced out, and it starts by letting the labels dissolve. Don't be so quick to judge something as good or bad, you know. Let it show you what it's becoming, because nothing is in its final form right now, and neither are you. Truly, nothing in life is static. It's always in a state of ecstatic motion. So a lot of this kind of energy coming in. Recognize that we are in a shape-shifting climate right now, and that is going to continue until we arrive at that Sagittarius new moon on the 19th. That's when we'll really have more clarity about the way we're meant to harness this energy and direct it, okay? In the meantime, it's just getting used to holding the energy. Yeah, and it's a lot, because it's coming on the backside of the closing of a real rough karmic cycle where Pluto pretty much handed everybody their ass, right? So, hey, at least you're not the only one. Everybody is grappled with some pretty heavy stuff here, especially with Uranus and Taurus. Okay, we know we're grappling with stuff that goes back to 2018. And with all that Plutonian energy that's been on the scene, we're grappling with stuff that, you know, we were dealing with back in 2008, 2009. Okay, so a lot of energy coming forward right now. There's been a lot of, it's in the cross position. This is the bridge we got to cross. We got to move out of this lax state of consciousness. It's keeping us impoverished. It's keeping us sick. It's keeping us in this cold state where we can't open up to the warmth of the emotions and the transformational fire and the flow that wants to come into our life here, okay? And look at the flow that wants to come in here. It's rising above the past challenges. It's actually healing, transforming, alchemizing, unifying within ourselves, and also being able to toast another here who's gone through the same process, you know? And this can be anybody. There's a lot of healing going down right now. The healing starts within, but many of you are healing key relationships. This is something that's going to be coming in a lot more as we move further into Sagittarius season. You know, it's being able to transform something that was really ailing into something that becomes a source of inspiration, something that becomes a source of mutual appreciation, something that actually fills your cup. Yeah, look at this, flipped up in the middle of the deck. I wonder what's hiding it. There's a little bit of shyness around this too. I see this. It's that starmate energy. There's like soul recognition here. You know, there's fond feelings. There's nostalgia. Some of you feel nostalgic for a place or a person or a space, a time that you felt you've never encountered in your life, and yet you feel this calling. What's been concealing this? Well, all these troubles, all these worries, all these stresses, some of it connected to your childhood, some of it connected to, you know, really young parts of yourself. Some of this stuff you've been lugging around with you for lifetimes. You got to let these troubles go. As long as you carry all of these troubles forward with you, it's really concealing what's truly wanting to come in here, this sweetness. This sweetness, you know, that takes you back to a simpler time. A sweetness you feel you've lost, that's something that can be never recovered here. You know, it's what has you shut down, what has you closed off. Too protective, too focused on protecting yourself at all costs, and it's blocking out something really sweet. It's like fearing injury before even seen as something intends to injure, you know, having too many perceptions about what it means to open the heart, what it means to connect with another, to even allow this kind of blessing in. So where the deficiency lies, it's not coming from outside. It's about making ourselves ready to receive. This is what's coming in here to be looked at, addressed. Judgment. Judgment. See, because in Sagittarius season, there's absolutely rebirth coming in here. There's renewal coming in here. You're not going to be stuck in that rut. This is a revival, okay? It's a revival, but you got to let the energy in. You have to be able to answer the call. You can't do that if you're shut down. Any more details that want to come in around this? Any more details that want to come in around this for the collective? You might be receiving an important phone call, okay? You may receive an important phone call. It brings up some feelings for you. An important message comes in. It has you questioning, you know, if you really want to step into this. Maybe if you want to jump all the way in. It might be something that kicks off an emotional process for you. There may have been a time you really waited for something like this to come in, or you thought this day would never come, and then when it comes, it has you kind of reflective for a moment. I see that. I see you reflecting. I also see there's something you do discard. There's something you leave behind. And I feel like it's the way that you used to approach a situation. Like there's some, in order for you to step into whatever this is, it could be an opportunity that's coming your way too, that really takes you out of your usual element. And so there's something about that feels a bit maybe daunting. And you recognize, I can't like move into this experience the way I always have. In order to step into this, I got to move in a brand new way. So there's a point of reflection, I feel, when this comes in. Yeah, there's a point of reflection. Do I invest in this? All right. This might come through really strongly on the 7th, okay? really strongly on the 7th. There may have even been some things that happened yesterday, you know, where you really started to consider how you want to move forward now, or how things have changed, and ways that that requires you to show up differently than you have in the past. Might have been like an important communication that came through. Any more details for the collective? One more round of this, and then I'm going to cut the deck. And I think I'll get some numbers and maybe some letter dice messages. Yeah, see? Something is going to be extended here, okay? There's an Ace of Cups that comes in, and it does promise the sun peeking through, all right? But I noticed there's sort of like a little bit of on the fence energy with this, whatever this is. It's almost like, because of past experiences and stuff that's operating subterraneanly, I feel like it's stuff that still hasn't been cleared, hasn't been really honestly integrated, looked at, owned, you know? It's going to make you feel like you need to suspect this. And rather than being just real clear and being honest about that and saying, hey, you know, I'm going to be radically honest with you. You know, I feel a little insecure about this, or I have a lot of stuff coming up for me and I need to sit with this, or whatever it is, you know. There could be the desire to either just completely shut something out because you're too afraid to just even open yourself to the possibility, or there could be the tendency to not really be all in, like just kind of have your toe in, you know, because you're still trying to hide where you're really at, what's really going on. And I feel like the energy that's coming in right now, it just requires everybody to be really transparent and very forward and moving in some ways that can be, it can be scary. It can be scary for a lot of people, especially if they've been moving through a lot of deep hurt, you know. It looks like there's a lot of wounding here at the basis of the matter. There's been a lot of like swords energy coming out. Let me do a cut the deck to cap this off, and then I'll get some numbers. Yeah, it's a learning cycle. See, that's the thing. When the opportunities come your way, as they start to filter in here, and you start to get like your inner promptings over the next 72 hours, and even as this lunar cycle continues to roll out, remember, you don't have this all figured out, because what's showing up here, it's a brand new opportunity for learning. So, you know, are you invested in learning? I mean, that's the truth. And maybe it's learning the truth as well, okay? Something is really coming to a head. And I feel like if you're willing to learn the truth about yourself, about others, about what this opportunity has to offer you, there will be something that comes through that feels like a real crowning moment. It'll come through in the winter, all right? But you have to be willing to learn, right? And that means if you're used to always having it all figured out, that's going to be very scary territory. Judgment, that's going to be very scary territory for you. But I'm telling you, everything you want is on the other side of that fear. All right, let's get some numbers here of significance over these next 72 hours for the collective with this full moon energy coming in. We got life path 6, we got life path 4, we got life path 1, life path 5, life path 7. Emphasis on life path 1 because we got life path 10 here. We also got life path 11, which breaks down to life path 2. But 11 is a power number, okay? Synchronicities coming in with the ones. 1, 1, 1, 11, 11. Those synchronicities coming through really strongly. Virgo energy, South Node energy coming in. Stuff that is coming in to be wrapped up, come to a culmination point so you can get the light of understanding you need for your lantern that helps guide you on the path ahead. We also got a Wheel of Fortune energy coming in here. So that is that Sagittarian energy. Something is transforming here. The wheel is turning. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it comes down, but the reality is that everybody's getting some kind of blessing, even if it's just getting free of a really gnarly situation, getting a last minute rescue, okay? Sometimes getting saved from ourselves, that's an excellent blessing that comes in that can save us a whole lot of time and a whole lot of trouble. 40:22 on the clock, yes. Coming into alignment, coming into your power. It brings you gifts here. There is a choice to make here. There has been a situation where you've been at the crossroads. You haven't been sure of what action you need to take, but I do feel like you'll be able to take that right action with the Magician energy coming in with Gemini here and bring about a transformation that does bring things into balance with justice. We got Libra energy coming in here as well. We also got Leo energy coming in. We do have Cancerian energy here, Aries energy here. So yeah, a lot of that stuff coming up. The deepest wound of the self, the Chiron action. Pretty strong Libra energy here. And Capricorn as well. Aquarian energy. Right, this is what I see right off the bat. The 4th, okay, the day of the full moon is going to be significant, but also the 2 days after, all right? So this whole 72-hour window here, there is a lot going down. The 4th, the 5th, the 6th, okay? By the 7th, there might be some action you're taking here. Just an initial starting point. Something gets set in motion there. I also feel that people born in January, June, October, November, May, July, also factor in strongly here too, okay? So let's get some letters as well, just to totally cap this off. I almost took tonight off and was like, you know what, I'll just come on and do a full day on full moon. And then I thought, no, let's see if we can get a read on this energy, because the energy has just been so like, woo. There's a lot swirling about, but I thought, let's see what we can pull through. So hopefully this will help you ride the energy out a little bit. Okay. Now, this is really interesting. The first word out here that I see is vault. So you're opening some kind of vault here, a vault full of treasures. A vault full of knowledge. Something about a vault. Some of you have gotten a little bit caught up in the bog, okay? Your energy feels a little bit weighed down. Could be a good time to get in a cleanse, okay? I see a cleanse coming in here. I think of cleansing, and yeah, sure, you know, spiritual cleansing comes in, of course. I mean, you could do smoke cleansing, you could take a spiritual bath. Certainly it's a good time to do it with the full moon. But I also look at cleaning out the mind, like emptying the mind. You know, a lot of times people don't think of that, the way you can just empty your mind, and that's all you really need to cleanse your consciousness. And you can do that with meditation, or if you find that you're really tense, you got a lot of like pressurized energy in your body, getting a good hike in, a good walk in, dancing it out, hitting the gym, getting a good workout in can really like cleanse it all out. Throwing away a bunch of stuff that you've been holding on to that you don't need to hold on to anymore, that can be really good. Just giving the house a real good cleaning. Also, you know, just keeping your food simple. You don't need to do anything dramatic. Just eat real simple food. Get the junk out. That can clear some of that kind of like bogged down feeling. Can make you feel a lot better. Some of you are starting on some kind of health regimen during this time. Even though it's the holidays, you know, you still want to show up for yourself. And I think where you do set about making those changes, you can still have your pie. I got pie here. You can still have your pie, and you also can, you know, not start the new year bogged down, you know, putting on a bunch of weight, not feeling your best, right? So there is something here about focusing on the health at this time. That energy's been coming in for a bit. Your health is your wealth. Put your focus there. You can never go wrong with giving attention to your health. It can help you better manage stress, challenges. It can give you that extra oomph that you need to make it through challenging situations, all right? You also may be looking at your emotional health too, and just healthy communication, okay? Things like this. Now is a time when we're going to start moving more into the fire energy. We need to do less just thinking about things, more actual doing things. Interesting. And on the other side, I just noticed facing out here from the first opening letters of cleanse, I have Anya. Anya is the fairy queen. Ooh. So there's a little magic brewing here. Yes, if you do work with fairy, make sure that you are keeping your space clean. If you haven't swept your floors, sweep your floors. They can get mischievous if you don't tend to such matters. Really important there, that coming in. That's an interesting message too. I got Selkie energy coming in, and that makes me think of the ways that we can bind ourselves when we give away our power. It makes me think of Seal Woman. Makes me think of Seal Woman when, you know, we get compromised and we lose an essential part of ourselves. So I do feel like a lot of you are reclaiming essential parts of yourself that have been suppressed for too long. Oh, do we have that? That would be really wild. Let me see. I got caterpillar here. It makes me think caterpillar girl. So yeah, going through a transformation. You're going through a transformation in a situation. There may be somebody that you were dealing with, and they're like looking at you now, and they're like, who are you? Who are you? I don't know this person. You know, you're coming out of your chrysalis state. I got some neat names in connection with this. I have the name Pilar. I have the name Leah. I have the name Aliyah. I got the name Kate. I have the name Shane. Shan. Eli. I got the name Kit. Also makes me think of Knight Rider. There could be a connection there. That could be like some kind of clue for somebody. I got the name Ula. And the name Dot. Dottie. I got the name Paula. I got the name Val. And the name Gail. The name Bo. Interesting. I got Lot. And when I saw Lot, it made me think of Lot's wife, who turned around and turned into a pillar of salt. So there's something about it's time to stop, like looking back. It's time to respect right where you're at. It's time to move forward. Ooh, interesting. I got Lancelot coming in here. So yeah, there's a lot of, this has been coming in lately, this kind of like Mists of Avalon kind of energy has been coming in recently. Lady of the Lake, this kind of energy signature, Knights of the Templar. All right. Got the name Elon. Okay, so there might be more action going on there. And of course, we always got some stuff that comes in with the macrocosm when I'm doing this. I got Venmo coming in. Venmo has been experiencing major outages today. I think this came in on the last 72-hour read we did, where there was a lot coming in around tech and AI and the weight that that's having on everything, and you know how that's shifting things. I got, now that I'm bringing that in, I got something coming in from DC, you know. It's bringing in the energy as well of digital, cryptocurrency, all this, these kind of things being impacted. These are questions that start to come up, you know, when we start to see the cracks in the system. I got the name King coming in. There could be a king arriving on the scene. There could be a man here that is straightening his crown, you know, a man who's been doing the work, and they're starting to get a clear vision of themselves, their possibilities, really stepping into their power here. It could be somebody named King as well. Somebody could be named King. Okay. This keeps coming in. I got Taos, man. Taos, New Mexico. Okay. So this seems to be a hotbed of activity here. I keep having Taos, New Mexico come up in the reads. So there must be some kind of connection there. All right. And that's what I got. All right. So ride it out the best you can. That's all any of us can do. Give people grace, you know. There's different levels to this. I'm seeing levels right here. Yeah. Different levels, different devils, okay? And everybody's moving on up in their own way. And often when we're moving on up, you know, we encounter things that can be a little hot to handle at times, right? It takes time to get recalibrated, balance ourselves out. So just understand right now we're moving through a very kinetic energy. It's very prickly. It's going to be heightening too as that moon continues to swell. I mean, the mother's belly swelling, all right? I mean, we're moving into that rebirth Venus energy. So just think about that, you know? At that time, right before birth is about to happen, it's a very kinetic time. There's a lot of feelings, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of energy teeming, you know? And that's where we're at right now, okay? So create the right kind of space around it and do what you can to buffer where it feels a little sharp or it feels a little rough, and give a little bit of that space to those around you too. And you'll be able to ride this out quite efficiently. All right. See you on the other side.